Hello, this is BSJ, and this is going to be the second video towards the tips and tricks course on GameLeap. And this video is simply talking about when you should look to counter dive as a carry. And this is usually when you are in a lane that you are farming pretty well and you don't want to leave. And so this is an example where he's Razor against Abaddon, and this is the opposite of what we showed in the first video, where he's the one dominating the lane, and unless something happens, he really shouldn't leave, because his presence here, he's just farming freely while the Abaddon can't really get much out of the lane. The thought process that needs to occur in this situation is simply put, think about your matchup against the other two cores, because almost always a core is involved when diving one of your teammates. So when I look at my enemy two cores, the Jug and the SF, I think to myself that if I were to TP in and static link the Jug, he has simply no counterplay. So this is a situation where this could go both ways. If these both were like perfect players, the Jug should think that he should be careful about diving, because anytime he dives, the Razor could potentially counterplay him. And the Razor needs to be thinking, every time the Jug looks to dive, I need to be immediately ready to punish it. So that combines with having a TP in your inventory, like in this case he has it in his backpack, and then also having that in your back of your mind, such that you're, like when you look at the minimap, you're thinking about the lane that you would want to counterplay if there was a dive. So I think it's really safe to say, you know, for anyone who's relatively knowledgeable about carry matchups, that Razor really destroys Jug in the early game, and Jug should have no business being able to be aggressive underneath towers. And anytime Jug dives, Razor should counterplay it. And so what happens is when you're in these types of games and you're the stronger hero, which is like almost always the case when you have this strong lane matchup, it's on you to counterplay, otherwise your team is going to feed. Because when you're the strongest hero on the map and you're not doing anything, that's just the nature of Dota. The rest of your team is weaker, so you're going to have your teammates feeding. So when you're the hero that's the strong hero, this is what should never happen bottom. And this is why we're showing the coaching session. Is the minute that this Jug looks to dive the Batrider, Razor should immediately TP in front of his face. Instead, the Jug's diving under tier 2 with no TP scroll in his inventory. Look at the chaos that's ensuing, and this is because the strongest hero on the Dire team is not participating in the fights. And that's you. And notice how he shows up late and tries to get something done. What ends up happening every time in these scenarios is you either regret not going, or you end up showing up late because you realize you should have gone. And the way to prevent this from happening, like I said, is to simply think about it before it happens. Think about the lane matchups and why you would ever want to leave your lane. I mean, if you're already thinking about why you'd want to leave your lane, that's going to make your decision making a lot easier for when the enemy team looks to dive or be aggressive on your teammates. So coming back to our Jug game that we saw in my first replay, the next step we want to talk about in this thought process is also not only what cores are you good against, but also what abilities might need to be used, as well as what items you may need in order to be useful. And on Jug, for instance, I don't really look to counter gank him that much if I don't have my phase boots. So notice how I don't even have a TP. I have no intention of leaving my lane. I have no ulti, no phase boots. So even if I tried to TP in, I wouldn't be very useful. So when you're a strong hero, or you're looking to counter gank, or you're just looking to make a play, really try to think about what abilities or items you need in order to do so. And that'll help you also decide whether or not you need a TP at any given point. Because even though I could TP to lanes right now, I'm not strong and I don't have the items I need yet that I want to make it so that I can be effective on these counter ganks. Because leaving your lane when you're able to farm it is a very significant decision that should not be taken lightly. So that's why we want you to think about it in depth. So notice how I'm just farming efficiently no matter what's going on mid. I'm just farming because I don't have my items yet. So we're going to go ahead and fast forward to the point where I do get my items, and you're going to notice a drastic shift in perspective. The minute I get my phase boots delivered to me, I see OD mid. So the next step is, I know that if I TP mid and try to go on the OD, he can simply just astral me, astral one of my teammates, and the play is over. So if you shift to my player perspective, I get my TP, I look mid, see that he astrals, and immediately TP. And we get the turn kill on this OD. And it's one of those things where I immediately decided, like with my phase boots, I'm ready to participate. I got my TP delivered to me. I saw the opportunity, and I capitalized on it based on what I thought ahead of time. And this is something where if you have this thought ahead of time, you're simply reacting to what's happening rather than processing the dives or aggression that's occurring in the other lanes. This will make it a lot clearer for you whether or not you want to show up to fights. And this is all about thinking about the core matchups, thinking about what your hero needs to be useful, and also thinking about, like, what happens when I TP in. Like, if I didn't have a DK, like I had a mid hero that doesn't stun, the second I TP in, the OD is just going to walk away. But because I have a DK, and I'm thinking to myself, the minute I TP in, he just stuns, then that makes it so that we can get the kills. So it's really about thinking about exactly how the play is going to play out, and what your contribution will be, and your matchup relative to the enemy course. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll be doing more on the course.